Everybody, and welcome back to the Ascension Playground. So my name is Ursi, and today I'm joined on the playground by my dear sister friend, Linda Kubota Byrd. Hey, Linda.
Hello, Ursi. I'm not used to calling you that.
I know I'm still sitting well with, or trying to sit well with my inner child coming out to play instead of my serious double Virgo Pisces analyzer. But my heart was just wanting to get us together again to just see if we could share how you and I met. We met through a journey to Mount Shasta, where we met new friends through the Stargate experience with Pragit and Julian. And that was back more than a decade ago. And yet, Linda, when we open up and have a prayer around the Stargate in a Stargate meditation. So you and I were trained as facilitators. You are much more current than I am. But regardless, it's this idea that if there's someone on the playground that wants to hear how we open up a Stargate in the etheric realms and bring in energetics of love and support, seems like this March 2025 is rather bumpy. It was to be expected. And so we'll open up with a Stargate meditation where both of us join and link our hearts. And then, secondarily, if people want to stick around, Linda's going to share with us a little bit about what she's reading in the astrology for this rather auspicious time of March and maybe into April. So, okay, Linda.
Okay, do you think we should give a little bit of background as far as what the Stargate is and
Yeah, go
how
ahead.
we came to find it? Yeah, so the Stargate was channeled in over 35 years ago on the island of Maui. And Prageet Harris, who is the one who started the Stargate, or it came in through him, um, was they just bought a um, healing center, and he was really tired, and he was just lying on the ground. His friends were massaging him, and he said somebody started to talk, and he thought, well, that's kind of rude, but he's trying to relax, and talking got louder and louder, and finally he opened his eyes, and all of his friends were staring at him, and it turns out he was the one who was talking. And so he started to channel this being called Alcazar, and Alcazar told him and showed him how to build the Stargate. And so, what the Stargate is, it's a sacred geometric structure that serves as a portal to other dimensions. It sounds a little strange, but perhaps when Ursula or Ursi and I do the meditation, you might feel some energy that comes through it, because we're going to also invite you to form an etheric Stargate around you. So it's just, imagine, I'll walk you through that. So anyway, that's the background.
I love that. And the thing with Pragit was, I think he was a follower or a student of Osho. So this idea of something heart-centered and having a teacher, and I think Pragit was also into construction. So he was uniquely designed when he started not only hearing the voices, but then was shared. Okay, here's the fabric. Now make a turn, okay, and then like weld or manipulate this. So this image, this is a partial image of an etheric stargate working with specific geometries. And so for those of you who study sacred geometry, we know that the specific angles and the shape carry a resonant frequency. And Linda's got a very small one.
This is my traveler.
Yeah, your baby stargate. And I have my
His
big
name is
one.
Moksha.
Don't think you're going to be able to see it, but I also have a Stargate that I use to, yeah, to bring energetic frequencies of love and support. Yeah. And I got to tell you, Linda, my first experience with the Stargate was going up. I live in California, and in Northern California, San Mateo, they were having one of those new living expos. And so my friend Jennifer said, hey, let's go check out this meditation with the Stargate. And I rather reluctantly said okay, because I really wanted to get on the road and go home. So we're sitting there, a circle of us around this huge 6-foot Stargate construction that looks like this. And we were sitting in a circle. There was probably about 30 of us. And Prageet and Julianne led us in a meditation. And during that meditation, I'm telling you, something like really poked me hard on my shoulder. And I was so upset. I looked next to me and this man was sitting there like, how dare he touch me? But he was just in meditation. And so that's kind of like what Ursi needs to be like poked really hard. And I've been poked once here and a couple times on the back of my heart to say, pay attention. And from that moment, it was like I opened my heart to understanding about the Stargate. And then a friend said, let's go up to Mount Shasta and do the training, facilitator training. And that's where I met you. And we ended up sharing, wasn't that the time we met? We shared an Airbnb with our
Mm-hmm.
friend Kat. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Kat eventually bought the 6-foot huge Stargate. And we visited her at her home in Carmel. And that thing was really gyrating and like sonically like moving as we slept or just meditated with it. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's just powerful. It's almost creating like a nodal point.
Well, it has its own consciousness. So yeah, it's a portal. And so it takes us into the quantum field where there is no time or space. So I use it in my coaching practice when I work with people, because then we open a Stargate, we're in the quantum field. So when we get to a certain place, then we could do some healing work or removing blockages. Yeah,
Like
it's pretty
11, 12 years ago, Julianne and Prageet were talking about, you know, your super consciousness. Like, what are they talking about? And so it's like this learning curve, right? Of allowing yourself to experience quantum if you so choose without the fear. But the people we met through the Stargate too, it was almost like we kind of recognize each other through whatever is strange isn't really strange in that group. Seeing elves or orbs or talking about mermaids or the elementals. And the beauty of Mount Shasta, as many people know, is this idea of the inner earth beings, Telos, and then Adama, that there's actually perhaps even an etheric inner earth state and people, beings. So, yeah, so the Stargate is a great way to basically allow ourselves to experience quantum or super consciousness. Wow. When we got started, I thought we were just going to do the prayer and let other people have this organic experience, but it's good to tell the backstory. Is there anything else on your heart that you want to share about this journey with the Stargate?
It's the Stargate who gave me a different relationship with the planets, because I was at a small workshop and I was teaching an astrology class at the time, and the Algazar said to call in the planets. And when I called them in, I was overcome with love. It still comes back when I think about it. And I thought I could feel so much love from the planets. And what surprised me is I felt so much love for them. And I never thought I loved the planets. It was, there's something I worked with, but I never felt a connection. And when that happened, I recognized that they're conscious as well, and they love us. They want the best for us. So when we have transits to our charts, then instead of going, oh my God, planet, Saturn's going to be, or whatever, it's like, okay, if you think that this planet loves us, then you could work with it and say, so what would you like me to do? How would you like me to change? What is your message to me to help me grow or evolve? And so I have the Stargate to thank for how I do astrology, how I use astrology, and how I help my clients through it. So, and then I use it and along with the energy psychology techniques to be able to access inner children or past lives or whatever. Yeah. So,
I never knew that, Linda. I think when we saw you on Astrology Hub, as an instructor, that was a big differentiator for me when you showed up.
mm,
Oftentimes in astrology, it's rooted in a lot of knowledge, a lot of this is how it is. There's variance, but it's very mental. And when
mm,
you came in and kind of had a little bit of a declaration, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this perspective of the planets as beings, and you're saying loving beings. And oftentimes I think with stargates, it's like, let's get to the stars. But
mm,
you've just paused me back to remembering the natal moment of my birth. I have this dance with the planets um, in a very specific orchestrated way that's unique to my birth moment. And
mhm,
so to embrace it, I've just been diving in deep with Bernadette Brady's secondary progressions. So my
mhm.
progressed sun is a Scorpio, and I think next year we'll be shifting um, in a progressed way through a
Big deal.
house.
Yeah.
And so there's the celebration of wow, but keeping it at the mental realms doesn't fill my cup of tea. It's when we bring it to the heart. And
Mhm,
I know sometimes as human beings, we want to have the fast track. Well, let me sit with that Stargate and fast track into quantum. And I think what you're mentioning is there's a relationship of love
mhm,
and an awareness that you're part of it. Like you were saying, they're loving me, but I'm loving them.
mhm,
That's a huge differentiator to hold astrology, which the name is rooted in astro logos, the breath of stars,
mhm.
the language of the stars. But I love the word breath, that breathing love and life.
Yeah. And the other part of that experience with the Stargate was as I got to Pluto, I thought, okay, you know, and they just kept going out, 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 out. Because what happened is my consciousness just started to expand because Alcazar said, go and see them. And I thought, like in a rocket ship? I mean, just like, how? And then my consciousness just started to expand. And as I got to each planet, I could feel the frequency. They're all different. And like I say, when I got past Pluto, I was just going out, out, out. And I became acutely aware I was a teeny, teeny speck called Linda, but I was also part of everything. Again, changed my life because it takes you out of the 3D little story of, I'm just Linda, this is who I am. We're all part of something much greater. And so this is the part where the astrological chart is kind of like our own personal manual, you might say. I think we're all inserted with like I call it our own personal software program. And most people operate in default their whole life. That's kind of how it is. When you have a chart, then you have like a guide or a map that can guide you or help you to know, who you are, all the different parts of yourself, and as the planets move, how they're interfacing with your natal chart, so you know where the area of growth is, where you have support, where the window is open to work in that particular part of the chart. So, yeah. And you also know, just kind of like we're all living in kind of a chaotic time. I think that's an understatement, but there's a purpose for this. And so it's helpful to know what is that purpose so that we can weather this, ride this wave as best we can, to know that it won't last forever. So, yeah,
Yeah, this too shall pass, right? But
exactly.
it's how we choose to be in the now moment.
Hmm.
And so much of the energetics is really asking us or inviting us, would you like to merge with your higher self, your super consciousness? Would you
Hmm.
like to do that as the planet is shifting from 3D into 5D and back and forth? So it's this idea, would you like to ascend or move with Mother Earth um,
Or
and
it's more like wake up
wake up?
to
Oh,
recognize,
remember.
remembering. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
your core essence. Yeah.
yeah, and there's another being that's being channeled through Dr. Marilyn Gebicki. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Anyway, he's called Zazar, and Zazar has been studying humanity for 150 years, and he's here now, coming through Maryland, to help us remember, and these are his words, that we are magnificent beings. And so it's again taking us out of the 3D story of the Linda Ursi story and recognizing that we have so much more. We're so much bigger than that because we're um, star beings, really. Well, we're souls incarnate in a body. And so that it's the time, we're in a time where it's really helping people remember that there's so much more than their story, to own the totality of our magnificence, as Zajar calls it. Yeah.
And I think if I remember correctly, um, Zazar chose to be what, part elfin, part, what were the other two parts?
Pleiadian, part Arcturian.
Palladian and Arcturian. And Alcazar, who's channeled through the Stargate, is, if I remember correctly, Linda, Arcturian. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I've ever heard exactly um, Alcazar's origin. He's like the representative of the Galactic Council. So I think of him as like, I think of the Galactic Council like the United Nations,
Yeah, yeah.
and so he speaks for them through Prageet. Yeah.
In support of humanity
Mhm.
as we make this huge shift. And it's a choice point. So if you choose to just say, I don't want to go into quantum and I prefer not to embrace super consciousness or remember. It's a choice point and without the judgment. And that's the beautiful thing. A lot of times in our collective, that imprint of, you know, if you don't believe this way, you're going to be left behind. And that story is not part of what we're doing here with um, this awakening, remembering period. But it's fascinating how more and more are saying this is who's showing up. And the choice of a hybridization of like Marilyn with Zazar of those three, I think that's a beautiful composite. When you study the star stories and some of the work that Julia Balaz is doing, it helps bring in this idea of we're awakening to a galactic consciousness. No
Mhm.
more just our earthbound looking at our this lifetime or our Akashic records of all our earthly lifetimes. It's this pivot to go, wow, there's more to me if I choose to in love, move in these higher frequencies and nothing to do, right? But it's this idea of coming more fully online to being who you remember yourself to be.
We truly are. Yeah. And it's like we're moving into the oneness, to recognize that we're all part of the same energy field of love. And each of us bring our own frequency. So this astrological chart kind of shows you your frequency. I say we're all particular notes in the symphony.
Yeah.
We all bring our particular piece so um, that nobody's left behind. It's just as people are waking up more and more, recognizing that we're more than just our human story, then it raises their frequency. And as we do our own personal work, we let go of all of our shame, blame, guilt, lower frequencies. We buoy up to something different. And so as we buoy up, we'll get to critical mass, and then everybody wakes up at the same time or at some point. But it's not, nobody's getting left behind, and there's no judgment. You
Yeah.
will know if you're called to do the work. And it's not work, it's just we let go of the old ways just as we let go. And this is where the full moon is so powerful, especially this one, because it's a Pisces, 29-degree Pisces moon. It's like, well, anyway, it's a Virgo moon, but the time that we're in is all about letting go, letting go. And it's kind of it's like the Virgo would think, what do I do? And the Pisces is, how do I be? because these are two sides of the same coin. So it's the beingness is it reminds me of when somebody asked Michelangelo how he created David, right? And he said, I just took off everything that wasn't him. And that's kind of what's going on for us. We're taking off all the stories, all the things that are not us. And as we do that, then we just buoy up to the love frequency because that's what we live in. It's like water to fish, you know.
Yeah.
We just forget. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you just shared the beautiful axis of Virgo Pisces, and you and I carry that, bringing spirit into matter. So it's
Mhm.
important to be, but it's also important to like know how to navigate in 3D. So it's like, oh, okay. So it's the balancing and then the beauty of integrating into a center point
Mhm.
where the I don't know, the true union seems to be. And I would just say if people are interested at all in the Stargate, learning more about its shape or how to get one, or there's a lot of YouTube videos. If you just Google the Stargate Experience or the Stargate Academy and look for Pragit and Julian, there's a lot of information readily available. It was a stepping point to bring you and I together, Linda, and I
Mhm.
remember sitting in Mount Shasta, learning about the Stargate. And I don't know where I had the audacity to ask Alcazar such a personal question that he answered as an entity to help guide me in my painting path, to work with the geometries, with gold, with water, with acrylic. So it was this idea that I felt like I was given the next step and I trusted it. And I asked, well, who's my guide? Who's my guide? And you're not supposed to ask personal things in these Stargate gatherings, but Alcazar pointed above my head and said, the picture above you, Mother Mary, has always been with you. And just saying that for how much the mother means to me, and this idea of that blue, we got you, it's okay, that divine feminine in her highest, bringing spirit into matter through the mother, right? Bringing the Christ through the mother. And I say the Christ as this idea that we know in Orion, when the great polarity and duality was happening, that when the collective was ready, an Orion Christ came. And so this idea that we overemphasize, oh, everything's new on earth, it's not necessarily true. That these stories, these archetypal stories of when the collective is ready, the Christ comes. And then the Christ gets, you, if you choose to carry that flame, that love that you were talking about when you recognize the planets loving you and you loving them.
Right. And I just want to clarify, it's not the Christ in the religious sense. It's no dogma. It goes in same with Mother Mary. It's the purity of what their energy is. It's not attached to any religion. So,
I
yeah.
know we get tripped up in how we want things to look and form, how we want things to be laid out, doctrine and theologically. And yet we are an evolving species and our stories shift as we evolve. And so,
Mhm.
this idea of opening up for those who are hearing this, opening up to this idea of what is galactic consciousness? How do I move out of linearity thinking and duality, us versus them, politically, us versus them, or um, and move instead to this idea, like you were talking about, Linda, that we're all part of the whole. And what is this idea of galactic consciousness, and how can a Stargate, or I know we're going to move into a Stargate experience soon, to hold for anyone who wants to listen? How will that inform my path? So I'm just going to say, I'm getting this fun feeling like as we now move into a meditation, Linda, others listening, if you really tune into the heart and to the joy and anchor in, tell me more about who I am and I'm remembering state, I have a feeling what wants to come through, um, perfectly timed. And if it doesn't, just let it go and it's not time, but for those who may hear this, I'm excited of what could come through. 2025 it's epic.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And just know that even if you don't feel anything, it's still working.
Yeah.
So,
Could show up later. Yeah. Or in dreams or
all
in
right. It's
synchronicities
just
or
there.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could be poof. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you guide us, Linda.
Okay. Well,
I'm
what we're going to
supporting you.
do, if for those of you who are watching, the two of you that are still here,
You and me.
yeah, yeah, might be. What we're going to do is we're just going to, I'll tell you what we're going to call for. And then when I say asking inside, then it's important if you want to truly take part in this, is to also ask with me because I can't ask for you because we live in a world of free will, right? So you can choose. So we'll just start out by putting our feet on the floor. And then if you like, close your eyes. You don't have to, but you can close your eyes. Now we're going to take a deep breath. And first, I'm going to call for the energy from Mother Earth. So asking inside, we call for the energy from Mother Earth. And just imagine the energy coming up from the very core of our being, coming up through all the various layers very quickly, 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 coming up and entering through our feet and filling every cell of our body with this beautiful, nurturing, protective energy from Mother Earth. Just feel that energy just permeate your entire body. And next, we'll call for the energy from Father Sky. So asking inside, we call for the energy from Father Sky. And just imagine the energy pouring down from the heavens, entering through your crown chakra, and again, filling your entire body with this beautiful energy from Father Sky. So now we have a combination of both Mother Earth energy and Father Sky energy, establishing us as the bridge between heaven and earth. And next, we'll call for the presence of an etheric stargate or an imaginary stargate. And even if you don't know the geometry of that, don't worry, just imagine sitting in a pyramid and the intention will form the stargate around you. So asking inside, we call for the presence of an etheric stargate. And just imagine, some of you may even be able to vision the stargate forming around you. But like I said, if you don't see anything or feel anything, that's okay. It's still working. So next, we're to call for an activation of the stargate. So asking inside, we call for an activation of the stargate. And just imagine that the energy is starting to move within the stargate as it becomes activated because, as they say, it's a consciousness. So as the energy gets stronger and stronger in the stargate, we'll move from the third dimension to the fourth. And the energy continues to build, moving to the fifth dimension, moving faster and faster into the sixth. And at the seventh dimension, we'll pause as the energies all start to merge together. And we're going to call for a strong seventh dimensional energy field. So asking inside, we call for a strong seventh dimensional energy field. And like I said, some of you may actually feel this energy as it's building within the stargate. Now we're moving to the eighth dimension as it gets stronger and stronger, moving faster and faster to the ninth. Now the 10th, 11th, and again at the 12th dimension we pause. This is the energy we'll be working from. So we're to call for a strong 12th dimensional energy field. So asking inside, we call for a strong 12th dimensional energy field. And this is the field of the quantum where there is no time or space. So you may actually feel expanded, maybe even a little less dense. I'm going to also call for a connection to the entire Stargate morphic field. There are Stargates all over the world. And so I will just call for a connection to the field. So asking inside, we call for a connection to the entire Stargate morphic field. You could almost, well, some of you may feel this big expansion as you connect to all these Stargates around the world. And next, we're to call for the presence of the angelic realm. We always call in the angels. And there's so many angels that are always with you. So asking inside, we call for the presence of the angels. And just imagine the angels all flooding in. They're always there, but when we acknowledge them, then they like that. You could actually ask them to come closer. Just say, come closer. Some people actually feel them. As Ursi mentioned earlier, that she got poked, but that's not unusual. And next, we'll call for the presence of the archangels. There are many, many archangels who are part of this work. The two that I usually acknowledge and call in specifically are Archangel Michael and Archangel Metatron. So asking inside, we call for the presence of Archangel Michael and Archangel Metatron. And we also call in this group of angels called the Council of the Elohim. These are the angels on high. So asking inside, we call for the presence of the Council of the Elohim. And just feel as the energy in your Stargate is filled with this angelic, loving energy. And next we'll be calling on the Ascended Masters. As Ursi mentioned, Mother Mary is always a part of this work. She brings in her unconditional love and her compassion. So asking inside, we call for the presence of Mother Mary. Just feel that loving presence coming in. And next we'll call for her counterpart from the east, Kuan Yin. So asking inside, we call for the presence of Kuan Yin. Just feel as this energy is building this beautiful feminine energy, filling our stargates. And to counterbalance from the masculine, we'll also call for the presence of Jesus and Buddha. So asking inside, we call for the presence of both Jesus and Buddha, bringing in their gentle, beautiful, loving masculine energy, balancing the energy between the masculine and the feminine. And next, there are many, many other Ascended Masters. And I'd just like to acknowledge them who have come. And feel free to call in if you have particular Ascended Masters you work with or that are part of your guidance. Feel free to call them in now. And next, we're to call in our ancestors from the stars. First, we'll call in the Pleiadians. We are told that the Pleiadians are the ones who seeded Earth. So they are ancestors to those of us who live here. So asking inside, we call for the presence of the Pleiadians. And next, we'll call for the presence of the Arcturans, those from Arcturus. These, we are told, seeded the Pleiades. So again, ancestors. So asking inside, we call for the presence of the Arcturans. And again, there are many, many other star beings here as the Earth is in the process of transformation as humanity is in the process of waking up. And so we acknowledge all of the other star beings, star ancestors, star families who have come to assist humanity in this time of transformation. In particular, I'd like to call in for the presence of Zazar and Alcazar, who are very much connected to the Stargate. So asking inside, we call for the presence of Zazar and Alcazar. And it also just dawned on me there's another group that comes when planets are in transformation or transition, and they're called the Masters of Xenon. And I'm just thinking, oh, Zazar, Alcazar, Xenon. Interesting. Um, so um, the Masters of Xenon are here to help us all develop our intuition or have our intuition become stronger. So asking inside, we call for the presence of the Masters of Xenon. Like I said, there are many, many other star beings, and we thank them all for being here. Hmm. There are also other beings from the unseen realm. There are elementals, whales, and dolphins. And there's this other being who channels through Alcazar, through Brigitte. Her name is Symphonia, and she loves being part of these. So, and what she's a representative of the Mer people, and she's got a real lightness of being. So I just like to acknowledge and welcome in Symphonia. And so asking inside, we call for the presence of Symphonia. And some of you may feel her childlike joy. She just brings a real um, happiness and a lightness to our meditations. So, and Ursi, I think you said you had others you'd like to bring in.
Yes, I'd just like to call out that it's 11:11 and
Oh,
no accident there, that this portal is open throughout all time space. I'd like to call in the beautiful star, the alpha star of the great constellation Eridanus, the river. The star at the end of this giant river is Achernar. Achernar is conjoining our sun in the north today, shining its light and offering the ability to remain steady in all types of crises points. So it's no accident that we're recording now, and we invite the beautiful fixed star Achernar. For those who are listening and who say yes, to imbue each of us who say yes with this idea of remaining steady with whatever torrential rivers, waters come our way. It's all for the highest good of moving, as Linda has shared earlier, us into our higher states of super consciousness. The other two stars that would like to join us today, one is the beautiful star Vega in the constellation of Lyra, our home constellation. Vega invites us to go within. It has a strong connection to Tibet. This idea of all answers remain within us when we move into our heart space. We thank our Lyran star families, especially from Vega. And the third that did not want to be missed was our Syrian forefathers who worked with our Palladian star mothers, including, according to Cryon, Eliliu. So the Syrian star fathers who brought us geometry, who brought us the DNA strands to create the Homo sapien and move us now into Homo luminous. We invite you now to also invite any star families that you feel a particular soul connection to shine their light through your heart. And Linda, as you said, activating the nodal points of all the stargates throughout the physical earth and working within the etheric realms to support this momentous shift into greater light.
Wow, such beautiful energy.
The words that you often say, Linda, during the meditations, and feel. So being the beautiful Piscean, would you invite us, please, to feel?
The beautiful thing about Stargate work is it doesn't require anything except relaxing. The more relaxed you are, the more connected you become. And it is all about feeling as we're in this Pisces time. This big portal, as Cersei mentioned, with Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces. Strong, strong Pisces energy. Just feel, feel, feel. As your connection to Source, connection to your higher self, connection to your deeper knowing, your deeper knowing gets stronger and stronger. So as you feel this connection, we hope that you've gotten a taste of what the Stargate can do. And you don't have to have a physical Stargate or a picture of a Stargate or anything. You could just call it in, just imagine an intention. Your intention will create a Stargate anytime you wish. And you can call back this moment and this feeling of peace and connection and knowing anytime. And so it is.
On a practical note, I would invite anybody listening, if you've made it through the full meditation, to hydrate, to take a pause. We're going to take a pause and hydrate. And if you decide to join Linda and I in our next little chat, we are going to take a look at the energetics of March 2025 and these powerful eclipses that are coming. But take a pause and go hydrate. Thank you so much, Linda. We'll see you all soon.